So we're up to the Congress of Vienna. Napoleon is defeated for the moment. The victorious allies gather, and peace, harmony in Europe is being hashed out. We have as the past to contend with, and this is just a little background. We know that the monarchy, the aristocracy, the church, patriarchal families, these were the traditional institutions of the past that we've talked. Conservatives believed that national, historic, and religious tradition, society, and I mention this because this is every semester for me when I say conservative, and we're going to talk about liberals in just a moment, I do not mean the Republican Party, I do not mean the Democratic Party. The context of this dialogue that we're having, the Congress of Vienna, Europe, in between Napoleon I and Napoleon II, the 100 Days. Conservatives thought that all change should be gradual. We shouldn't necessarily throw the baby out with the bathwater. With total societal overhaul at once. People might not like that. To those frightened by social disorder, violence, and the terror stimulated by the French Revolution, very easy thing to do. As we know, not a great time. A lot of people dead. Pierre, wherever he ended up, has a lot of explaining to do to a lot of souls. We're in the midst of the Industrial Revolution. There are massive changes going on. The bourgeoisie, they increased in size and wealth. The urban worker emerged as so on the other hand, again, not Democrats, please remember that. Liberals, that government must protect the natural rights of the citizen. On the last test, the views of Hobbes and the views of Locke, right? Life is nasty, brutish, and short. Liberals take a more Lockean view of things. Rights, which we defined as those rights that we're born with, that are innate to our by God. Liberals supported civil liberties, habeas corpus rights, freedom of speech, press, assembly, religion. Shouldn't sound unfamiliar. Greatly admired the British constitutional monarchy. They favored representative democracy. Full democracy was considered by many to be mob rule, right? If you get 50% of the people plus one, then tough luck, right? The British had and still have that constitutional monarchy, the monarch, an advisor, from government to government, steady, stable influence that the late Queen Elizabeth, for example, was for so long. Of Parliament, the voices of the four nations of the United Kingdom are heard in Westminster, which is that building, by the way. Liberals advocated for economic individualism. They opposed government intervention in the economy. They had very little concern for the plight of the urban workers. Free enterprise is sometimes more concerned with profit, being profit-driven. And the cost is not too important to people without a force like government or law. Nationalism was another force that created the time period we're in. Now, we talked in class when we started covering this about how an idea isn't inherently good or inherently bad. You have to try to clear your mind of the connotations around the term that are existent. A nation consists of a group of people. This is a definition of a nation, rather. A nation consists of a group of people who share similar traditions, history, language. That is the definition of a nation. Okay, nothing inherently good or bad about that. It should be sovereign and include all members of a nationality. This has been an argument people have been making since, well, I mean, really since forever. We have people who want to free Tibet, the Kurds in the Middle East, the Scots in Great Britain. All sorts of people have been arguing that they are a nation. Factual, what was happening at that time, the arguments they made. Nationalists insisted that a person's greatest loyalty should be to the nation. Well, that is a national sentiment. That is also really the sentiment of every government. Be loyal to Pharaoh. Pharaoh's the boss, the emperor, king, president, whatever. Your loyalty should be to them. So we come to the Congress of Vienna, restoring the old order. You have come at the right moment. If you like fetes and balls, you will have enough of them. The Congress does not move forward, it dances. So Europe, we know, had been at war since 1789. Really, since a little before the start of the French Revolution, advocating the liberal order, liberty, equality, fraternity, that sound familiar, had been unleashed. Between Napoleon's exile to Elba and the final exile and his eventual death on St. Helena, the European powers got together in Vienna, Austria, to discuss peace after the defeat of the Napoleon. Not so much a believer in the great man of history theory, but he really, you could say the Napoleon. All right. Clemens von Metternich was the host of the Congress of Vienna. He was the Austrian foreign minister. And there, I'm not even going to try to pronounce the full name. Metternich is S in silk stockings, or so said Napoleon. Of conservatism, which, as we discussed at the beginning of this video, was the old order, the old way of doing things, a believer in tradition, a social order, everything has its place. In other words, union between the monarchs is the basis of the policy, which must now be followed to save society from total ruin. The first principle to be followed by the monarchs should be that of maintaining the stability of political institutions against the disorganized excitement which has taken possession of men's minds. Let the great monarchs strengthen their union and prove to the world that it is beneficial and ensures the political peace of Europe. Why does he say this? Union between the monarchs is the basis of policy. Well, the French Revolution comes along. The French public cuts the head off of Louis XVI, cuts the head off of Marie Antoinette. Shows that maybe we could get by without kings and queens in the old social order. So, union must happen. There must be some sort of cooperation between these guys if they're to save themselves and save their order, save their kingdoms, and ensure their family's future. So Metternich viewed liberalism and nationalism as threats to European stability and the survival of the Austrian Empire, and rightfully so, because we know in the grand scheme of history, the Austrian Empire doesn't last too terribly much longer. The Tsar, Alexander I, represented Russia. Napoleon said of him it would be difficult to have more intelligence than Tsar Alexander, but there is a piece missing. I have never managed to discover what it is. Lord Robert Castlereagh represented the United Kingdom, Britain. Everything is overly or nearly over. The clouds are dispersed. Europe owns the happy issue of the negotiations to the departure of Lord Castlereagh. So, maybe he got in the way a little bit. Then Charles Maurice de Talleyrand represented France. Of diplomats, When we looked at this picture in class, I know, but arcs of Europe, not very flattering. You can read this for yourself.